The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystalline metal that caught the light of a dozen distant suns. Inside, representatives from 300 species debated the future of known space. The Votheen, with their silver exoskeletons, argued for expansion. The Kelrath, towering beings of living stone, demanded stricter mining regulations. The insectoid Threxians clicked their mandibles in disagreement. Ambassador Zelther of the Votheen rose from his seat, his metallic body gleaming. The Outer Rim territories are unclaimed. We have every right to expand our mining operations. Those systems were marked as restricted 500 cycles ago, countered Elder Morath of the Kelrath, his granite voice echoing through the chamber. The old records clearly state. The old records are outdated, Zelther interrupted. Whatever primitive civilization claimed those systems is long dead or irrelevant. We waste time discussing ghosts. In the archives deep below the council chamber, automated systems maintain data on every known species. One file, buried beneath centuries of newer entries, bore a simple designation: Humanity Earth System, Status. Isolated last contact, 487 cycles ago. The file was never opened. No one remembered to check it. Meanwhile, in a distant corner of the galaxy, the Sol system thrived in silence. Earth had not forgotten the galaxy had simply stopped paying attention. When humanity first reached for the stars 5 centuries ago, they encountered the Galactic Council. The meeting was brief and disappointing. To the ancient species of the Council, humans were primitives, barely worthy of documentation. They were given a simple message: develop in isolation, return when you have something to offer. The Council expected humanity to take 10,000 years to advance, if they survived at all. Most species did not. Humanity took that dismissal personally. On Earth, in the underground city of New Geneva, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Her dark eyes scanned the projection with intensity. Behind her, the High Command of the United Earth Coalition waited in silence. 500 years, she said quietly. 500 years since they told us we weren't good enough. 500 years since they marked our system as restricted and forgot about us. General Marcus Okonkwo, a broad-shouldered man with gray hair, stepped forward. Our scouts report the Votheen mining fleets are 3 systems away from Sol. They're claiming unclaimed territory. They don't even know we're here. They don't remember, corrected Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the coalition's chief scientist. Her fingers danced across her data pad. I accessed their public networks. The file on humanity exists, but it's flagged as low priority. We're listed as a pre-industrial species that never achieved space flight. Admiral Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then it's time to remind them who we are. How many ships do we have ready? The entire fleet, Okonkwo replied. 2,000 vessels. Capital ships, carriers, destroyers, and the Titan-class dreadnoughts. Our technology? Chen asked. Dr. Tanaka's eyes gleamed. Beyond anything in their databases. We've had 500 years of uninterrupted development. No wars with alien species, no political interference. Just pure scientific and military advancement. Our weapons, shields, and engines are generations ahead of galactic standard. And they think we're primitives, Chen said. Good. We keep that advantage. General, prepare the fleet for launch. Dr. Tanaka, I want full communication blackout. We don't announce ourselves until we're ready. What about first contact protocols? Asked Commander Lu Wei, the youngest member of High Command. Chen turned to face them all. The galaxy made first contact 5 centuries ago. They judged us and dismissed us. This isn't first contact, Commander. This is a reintroduction. And we're going to make sure they never underestimate humanity again. Across the solar system, humanity mobilized. Ships emerged from hidden construction yards on the dark side of Luna. Weapons platforms around Mars powered up for the first time. The rings of Saturn concealed carrier groups that had been training in secret for decades. Jupiter's moons hosted research stations that had pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Humanity had not been idle. They had been preparing. In the Votheen mining fleet approaching the Sol system, Captain Dravok studied his scanner readings with confusion. These readings make no sense. The system should be dead. Nothing but a yellow star and dead rocks. His first officer, a younger Votheen named Taurek, checked the data. The old files say a primitive species called humans once lived here. Pre-industrial. Definitely extinct by now. Then why am I reading energy signatures? Dravok demanded. Big ones. Everywhere. Before Taurek could answer, every screen in the ship blazed white. A message appeared, written in perfect galactic standard. This is the United Earth Coalition. You have entered human space. Power down your engines and prepare to be escorted out. This is your only warning. Dravok stared at the message in disbelief. Humans? Impossible. They're extinct. There. His sensors screamed as 2,000 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding the mining fleet in perfect formation. The ships were sleek, deadly, and unlike anything in galactic records. Captain Dravok did something he had never done in 30 years of service. He hit the emergency retreat signal. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassador Zelther stood at the center, his silver exoskeleton trembling with fury. Around him, 300 species demanded answers, their voices creating a cacophony that overwhelmed the translation systems. "Silence!" roared Elder Morath, slamming his stone fist on the council floor. The impact sent vibrations through the entire structure. Slowly the chamber quieted. "Ambassador Zelther, explain what happened to your mining fleet." Zelther's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "My ships were forced to retreat from the outer rim. They were surrounded by an unknown fleet of overwhelming size and technological sophistication." "Unknown?" questioned High Inquisitor Zyrith of the Threxians, her compound eyes glittering. "We have catalogued every spacefaring species in the galaxy. There are no unknowns." "Apparently there are," Zelther shot back. "Because these ships identified themselves as human." The chamber fell silent. Then laughter erupted from dozens of species. The Kelrath rumbled with amusement. The Threxians clicked in what passed for mirth among their kind. Even the normally stoic Etherian observers seemed amused. "Humans?" wheezed Council Speaker Vornith, a floating gaseous being. "The primitives from the Sol system? This is a joke, yes? Does this look like a joke?" Zelther snarled, projecting holographic footage onto the chamber's central display. The council members fell silent as they watched the recording. The video showed the Vothene mining fleet, 12 massive vessels designed to crack open asteroids and strip mine entire moons. Then, in perfect synchronization, space itself seemed to tear open. 2,000 human ships emerged, their hulls dark and angular, covered in armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with precision that spoke of advanced AI coordination or incredible pilot skill. The human ships formed a perfect sphere around the mining fleet in seconds. Not a single vessel was out of position. "Enhance Section 7, ordered Elder Morath. The hologram zoomed in on one of the human capital ships. It dwarfed the Vothene miners easily 3 times their size. Weapon ports lined its hull, but none were firing. They didn't need to. The message was clear: we could destroy you without effort. "What class of vessel is that?" asked Commander Threll of the Etherian Empire. "Unknown," admitted the Council's military analyst, a multi-armed hexapod named Grell. "It doesn't match anything in our databases. The energy signature is unprecedented. Their power output exceeds our Dreadnought-class vessels by a factor of 4. 4. Zyrith's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "Impossible. That would require a completely new power generation method. Or a very old species with a lot of time to develop," said a quiet voice. Everyone turned to look at Archivist Thena, a small, bird-like creature who rarely spoke in council sessions. She floated to the central display, her feathers rustling. "I took the liberty of checking the archives," Thena continued. "Humanity designation, Earth system. First contact made 487 cycles ago. Status was set to isolated development. Technological level at time of contact. Early space flight, nuclear fission, primitive computing." "Exactly," Zelther said triumphantly. "Primitives. So who is actually out there using their name?" "You misunderstand," Thena said softly. "That was 487 cycles ago. We told them to develop in isolation and return when they had something to offer. It appears they took that instruction seriously." The implications hit the council like a physical blow. 487 cycles. Nearly 500 years of completely uninterrupted development. No galactic wars to slow them down. No political interference from elder species. No technology sharing, but also no technology restrictions. Just pure, focused advancement. "That's not possible," Vornith protested. "Species don't develop that quickly. It takes 10,000 cycles minimum to go from early space flight to galactic-level technology. For most species," Elder Morath said slowly, his stone face thoughtful. "But we know little about humanity. When did we last check on them?" Silence answered him. "We forgot," Zyrith said, her voice barely a whisper. By all the stars, we completely forgot about them. This changes everything, Commander Threll said. If humanity has advanced this much, if they truly have 2,000 capital-class vessels, they have one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. Only the Aetherian Empire and the Kelrath hegemony have comparable numbers. And both of our fleets took 10,000 cycles to build, Morath added. Humanity built theirs in less than 500. Zelther's exoskeleton clinked as he straightened. I request permission to send a diplomatic envoy to the Sol system. We need to assess the situation. Denied, Morath said firmly. We will send a council envoy. This matter is too important to be handled by a single species. We need to determine humanity's intentions, capabilities, and threat level. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the council was considering whether a species might be a threat to the established order. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the council's public feed with satisfaction. They're scared, she said to her command staff. Good. Fear leads to respect. And respect is what we're going to earn. The council is sending an envoy, Dr. Tanaka reported. They'll arrive in 6 days. Then we have 6 days to prepare, Chen replied. Let's make sure their arrival is one they'll never forget. The council envoy ship, a magnificent vessel called the Unity's Voice, approached the Sol system with extreme caution. Inside, Ambassador Delthra of the Aetherian Empire reviewed everything known about humanity for the 100th time. It wasn't much. They used to have 5 continents on their homeworld, she said to her assistant, a young Kelrath named Corvin. They fought wars among themselves over resources and ideology. Their life expectancy was barely 60 cycles. They were violent, short-lived, and technologically primitive. That was 500 years ago, Ambassador, Corvin rumbled. Clearly things have changed. That's what worries me, Delthra admitted. Her crystalline body refracted the starlight beautifully, but her expression was troubled. A species that can advance this quickly is unpredictable. We don't know what they've become. We're receiving a transmission, the pilot announced. Audio and visual. The screen activated, showing a human woman in a crisp military uniform. She appeared to be in her middle years, with dark skin, short-cropped hair, and eyes that seemed to see right through the screen. Behind her, a command center buzzed with activity. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chin of the United Earth Coalition. Welcome to human space, Ambassador Delthra. We've been expecting you. Delthra felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. How did they know her name? The envoy's identity should have been confidential. Admiral Chin, Delthra replied, keeping her voice diplomatic. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Chen's smile was polite but didn't reach her eyes. We didn't agree to anything, Ambassador. You entered our space. We're simply deciding whether to let you stay. The statement was a shock. No species spoke to council envoys this way. Delthra felt Corvin tense beside her. I see, Delthra said carefully. Perhaps we started on the wrong foot. The council wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity and welcome you into the galactic community. The galactic community that forgot we existed? Chin asked, her tone conversational but sharp. The same community that dismissed us as primitives 500 years ago? That galactic community? Mistakes were made, Delthra admitted. But surely we can move past. Oh, we've moved past it, Chin interrupted. We've moved so far past it that we barely remember being angry. But we do remember the lesson, Ambassador. We remember being judged insufficient. We remember being ignored. And we remember being underestimated. And now you want respect, Delthra said, understanding dawning. No, Chin corrected. We already have respect. Your council is terrified right now. They sent you to figure out if we're a threat. The answer is yes. We're the biggest threat the Galactic Order has ever seen. Not because we're violent or aggressive, but because we're competent. And we're done playing by rules we never agreed to. Corvin couldn't contain himself. You dare threaten the council? You're one species. We represent 300 worlds. Chen's gaze shifted to him and Corvin actually stepped back. 300 worlds who've been fighting the same territorial disputes for 10,000 years. 300 worlds who've made no significant scientific advancement in millennia because you're too busy maintaining political balance. 300 worlds who are so comfortable in their stagnation that they forgot an entire species existed. And you think you're better? Delthra asked. We don't think, Ambassador. We know. Do you want me to prove it? Before Delthra could respond, the stars around the envoy ship changed. Dozens of human vessels decloaked, appearing from nowhere. They had been there the entire time, invisible to the Unity's Voice's advanced sensors. How? Delthra whispered. That's classified, Chin said. But I'll tell you something that isn't. Every major species in the galaxy has technology that's between 8,000 and 12,000 years old at its core. You've been refining the same basic principles for millennia. We started from scratch 500 years ago, and we didn't have your preconceptions holding us back. We looked at problems differently. We took risks you wouldn't consider. And we succeeded in ways you can't imagine. Chin leaned forward. So here's what's going to happen, Ambassador. You're going to return to the Council with a message. Humanity is claiming a sphere of influence that includes 50 systems in the Outer Rim. Those systems will be under human protection. Any species that wishes to operate within that space will need our permission. Any species that attempts to enter without permission will be removed. Permanently. You're claiming territory, Delthra said. That requires a council vote. We're not asking for permission, Chin replied. We're informing you of facts. The territory is ours. We have the ships, the weapons, and the will to defend it. What we don't have is patience for bureaucracy. The council will never accept this, Corvin growled. The council will accept whatever we tell them to accept, Chin said coldly. Because the alternative is finding out what humanity is capable of when we stop being polite. Now, Ambassador, you have two choices. You can return to the Council with our message and begin negotiations for peaceful coexistence. Or you can refuse and we'll send the message ourselves. Which will it be? Delthra looked at the human ships surrounding her vessel. Each one represented technology she couldn't understand, power she couldn't measure, and a species she had drastically underestimated. I'll deliver your message, she said quietly. Excellent, Chin said. Safe travels, Ambassador. And one more thing, tell the Council that humanity is done being forgotten. Whether they remember us with respect or fear is entirely up to them. The transmission ended, leaving Delthra alone with her thoughts and the uncomfortable realization that the galaxy had just changed forever. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most contentious in 1,000 years. Ambassador Delthra stood at the center of the chamber, having just finished her report. The silence that followed was heavier than the void between stars. Unacceptable, Zelther finally said, his voice shaking with rage. They demand 50 systems? They threaten the Council? This is an act of war. Is it? Elder Morath asked calmly. They've claimed unclaimed territory and stated they will defend it. That's not war, Ambassador. That's sovereignty. They're dictating terms to the Council. Zelther's exoskeleton flared bright silver with anger. We are the Galactic Authority. We decide who gets what territory. Do we? Archivist Thena asked softly. By what right? Because we were here first? Because we're older? Humanity owes us nothing. We dismissed them 5 centuries ago. They built an empire in isolation. Now they're claiming what they believe is theirs. And if we refuse? High Inquisitor Zyrith demanded. Delthra spoke up, her crystalline voice clear. Then we find out what their weapons can do. And based on their technology demonstration, I don't think we want that answer. You're suggesting we simply give in? Commander Threll asked incredulously. The Aetherian Empire has never yielded territory to threats. This isn't a threat, Delthra corrected. It's a statement of fact. Humanity has the military power to enforce their claim. The question isn't whether we can stop them. The question is whether we want to try. The Council erupted into argument. Some species, like the Vothene and the Threxians, demanded military action. Others, like the Kelrath and the Aetherians, counseled caution. The smaller species remained silent, watching the powers clash with fearful eyes. Council Speaker Vornith finally called for order. We will put it to a vote. All those in favor of sending a military fleet to challenge humanity's territorial claim. 83 species voted yes. All those in favor of recognizing humanity's claim and opening diplomatic negotiations? 142 species voted yes. The remaining species abstain, Vornith announced. The Council recognizes humanity's territorial claim and authorizes immediate diplomatic negotiations. However, Vornith's gaseous form pulsed ominously. The military coalition is free to act independently under Council Charter. We cannot stop member species from defending what they perceive as their interests. Zelther's smile was sharp. Then the Vothene coalition will be assembling a fleet. Any species that wishes to join us in teaching these humans their place is welcome. Within hours, 83 species began mobilizing their military forces. It was the largest coalition fleet in galactic history. Over 5,000 ships, representing the combined might of dozens of advanced civilizations. On Earth, Admiral Chen received the intelligence reports with a grim expression. 5,000 ships. They're actually doing it. Can we win? General Okonkwo asked. Dr. Tanaka pulled up tactical projections. Are 2,000 ships against their 5,000? On paper, no. In reality? She smiled. They have no idea what they're walking into. We'll need to make a statement, Chen said. Something that shows them the cost of aggression without triggering a full galactic war. The neutral zone, suggested Commander Lu Wei. It's uninhabited, strategically worthless, but visible to sensors from a dozen systems. We could stage a demonstration there. Chen nodded. Make it happen. And get me a secure channel to the moderate faction of the council. It's time they understood what's really at stake. 3 days later, Ambassador Delthora received an encrypted message from Admiral Chen. Against her better judgment, she opened it alone in her private quarters. Chen's face appeared, looking tired but determined. Ambassador, I know you voted for peace, Chen said. I respect that. But your colleagues are making a mistake. In 48 hours, the coalition fleet will reach the neutral zone. We'll be waiting for them. Admiral, that fleet has 5,000 ships, Delthora said urgently. Even if your technology is superior. It's not about technology, Chen interrupted. It's about evolution. Ambassador, do you know what made humanity survive on Earth? It wasn't being the strongest or the fastest. It was being adaptable. It was being willing to do whatever it took to survive. What are you saying? I'm saying that humanity didn't spend 500 years just building ships, Ambassador. We spent it preparing for the day the galaxy noticed us again. We knew this moment would come. We knew some species would refuse to accept us. And we prepared accordingly. Chen's expression softened slightly. I'm telling you this because I believe you genuinely want peace. But peace requires understanding. The coalition thinks they're facing an upstart species with good technology. They need to understand they're facing something unprecedented. Tell your allies to watch what happens at the neutral zone. Tell them to watch carefully. Because what they're about to see will determine whether this ends in diplomacy or destruction. Admiral, what are you planning? A lesson, Chen replied. One the galaxy won't forget. The transmission ended, leaving Delthora with a growing sense of dread. 48 hours later, the coalition fleet assembled at the neutral zone. 5,000 ships, bristling with weapons, confident in their numerical superiority. They were the combined might of 83 civilizations. They were unstoppable. They were wrong. Admiral Zelther stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Inexorable Will, and surveyed his fleet with satisfaction. 5,000 warships stretched out in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the neutral zone's distant star. It was the most powerful military force ever assembled in galactic history. Scan for human vessels, he ordered. Nothing on sensors, sir, his tactical officer reported. The zone is clear. They fled, laughed Captain Vrek of the Threxian contingent. The humans saw our fleet and ran like. Every sensor in the coalition fleet screamed simultaneously. The stars disappeared. It wasn't metaphorical. The actual stars vanished from view as something massive displaced the light around the fleet. Zelther stared in horror as a structure materialized around them. Not a ship, but a construct so large it defied comprehension. It was a sphere of dark metal and pulsing energy, easily 100 kilometers in diameter. The entire coalition fleet was inside it. What in the void? Zelther whispered. Admiral, I'm reading energy signatures inside the sphere, his tactical officer said, voice trembling. Thousands of them. They're ships. Human ships. They were hiding inside the structure and we flew right into it. Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every ship in the coalition fleet simultaneously. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Coalition. You are inside the deterrence sphere, humanity's first mobile strategic weapon. I want to be very clear about your situation. You cannot escape. Your weapons cannot penetrate the sphere's walls. And every ship in your fleet is currently targeted by autonomous weapons platforms that will fire if you attempt hostile action. This is piracy. Zelther roared. You have no right. We have every right, Chen interrupted. You brought a military fleet into space we claimed. You came here to threaten us. Now you're going to learn why that was a mistake. The interior of the sphere lit up with thousands of targeting lasers. Each one painted a different coalition ship. Zelther watched in horror as his tactical display calculated firing solutions. The human weapons could destroy his entire fleet in less than 30 seconds. However, Chen continued, Humanity didn't come here to start a war. We came to end one before it began. So I'm going to give you a demonstration of human capability. Then I'm going to let you leave. And you're going to tell every species in the galaxy exactly what you saw. Demonstration? Zelther asked, his voice barely steady. Observe. A section of the sphere's interior wall opened, revealing a captured asteroid, one of the massive iron core types that mining fleets spent months processing. It was at least 10 kilometers in diameter, worth billions in raw materials. A single human ship, no larger than a standard destroyer, detached from its position and approached the asteroid. Zelther watched on his main screen as the ship powered up a weapon he'd never seen before. The asteroid began to glow, first red, then white, then impossible colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. Then it simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Not shattered. It just stopped being there, as if reality itself had decided the asteroid was a mistake and corrected it. The space where it had been was perfectly empty, no debris, no dust, no energy signature. Nothing. That was a matter deconstruction beam, Chin explained calmly. It breaks down atomic bonds at the quantum level. We have 300 ships equipped with them. Each one can delete a capital ship in approximately 4 seconds. We could have erased your entire fleet before you even detected us. The coalition fleet was silent. Zelther felt something he hadn't experienced in decades, genuine fear. But that's not even our most advanced weapon, Chin continued. Show them the fracture drive, Commander Wei. Another human ship activated. Space itself began to twist around it, reality bending in ways that made Zelther's eyes hurt to watch. The fabric of the universe folded, creating impossible angles and geometries. For a moment, Zelther swore he could see through time itself, past, present, and future overlapping in the same physical space. The fracture drive allows selective manipulation of space-time, Chin explained. In practical terms, we can create localized time dilation fields. We can age your ships 1,000 years in seconds. Or we can freeze them in time, perfectly preserved but unable to move, shoot, or even think. Forever. The distortion snapped back to normal space, but the message was clear. Humanity had mastered technologies that the galactic community didn't even know were possible. You're monsters, whispered Vrek of the Threxian contingent. No, Chin replied. We're survivors. We're the species you dismissed as primitives. We're the species you forgot about. And we used that time to become something the galaxy has never seen before. We became Apex. Zelther found his voice. What do you want from us? Acknowledgement, Chin said. Understanding. And a promise. You will return to the Council and tell them exactly what happened here. You will tell them that humanity is not interested in conquest or domination. We simply want our place in the galaxy, a place we've earned through 500 years of advancement. Respect that and we'll be the best allies you've ever had. Challenge it. The sphere pulsed with power. And you'll learn that humanity has very long memories and very effective weapons. We understand, Zelther said quietly, his pride broken. Good. The sphere will release you now. Safe travels, Admiral. The massive structure opened like a flower, releasing the coalition fleet into open space. As they fled, sensors tracked every ship, gathering data on their technology and capabilities. Humanity now had a complete tactical analysis of 83 species' military forces. And the galaxy was starting to understand what it meant when humanity said they were done being underestimated. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. The coalition fleet's returning commanders stood before the assembled species, their reports complete. No one spoke. No one wanted to acknowledge what they had just heard. Finally, Elder Morath broke the silence. A sphere 100 kilometers in diameter. Matter deconstruction weapons. Space-time manipulation. Are we certain this isn't an exaggeration born from fear? Admiral Zelther stood, and for the first time in his military career, he looked small. I wish it were, Elder. But we have sensor logs from 5,000 ships. All confirm the same thing. Humanity has technological capabilities that exceed ours by centuries, perhaps millennia. And they let you leave, Ambassador Delthra noted. They could have destroyed the entire fleet, but they released you. That's significant. It's a power play, High Inquisitor Zyrith argued. They humiliate us to show dominance. No, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Archivist Thena floating to the center of the chamber, her small frame somehow commanding attention. They're showing restraint. Think about it, an upstart species with overwhelming military power facing a coalition fleet sent to challenge them. What would most species do? Defend themselves, answered Commander Threll. Exactly. Defend. But humans didn't just defend. They captured the entire fleet without firing a shot, demonstrated capabilities that render our weapons obsolete, and then let everyone go unharmed. That's not aggression. That's sophisticated strategic thinking. They want peace, but they want it on their terms. Council Speaker Vornitha's gaseous form pulsed thoughtfully. The question before us is simple. Do we continue to oppose humanity or do we accept them as equals? Equals? Zelther laughed bitterly. They're not our equals, Speaker. They're our superiors. In every measurable way. The only question is whether we acknowledge that peacefully or learn it through destruction. The chamber erupted in protests, but Moritha's booming voice silenced them. Admiral Zelther speaks harsh truth. But perhaps that's what we need. For 10,000 years, we have been the Galactic Order. We decided what was possible. We set the rules. But humanity has shown us that our rules are not universal. They found different paths, better paths. The question is not whether we accept them as equals. The question is whether they'll accept us. What do you propose? Delthor asked. A formal treaty, Morath said. We recognize humanity's territorial claims. We establish mutual defense agreements. We open technological and cultural exchanges. And we admit that we were wrong 500 years ago. Humanity has proven they have everything to offer. And if we refuse? Someone asked. Then we discover whether humanity's restraint has limits, Morath replied grimly. The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Only 12 species voted against the treaty. The Galactic Order had shifted in a single day. On Earth, Admiral Chin received the Council's proposal with her command staff. Dr. Tanaka read through the treaty terms carefully. It's generous, she admitted. Full recognition, trade rights, council representation, technology sharing agreements. They're essentially welcoming us as a major power. Because they're terrified, General Okonkwo said. Fear is a start, Chin replied. But it's not a foundation for lasting peace. We need to give them something to hope for, not just fear. What do you suggest? Commander Lu Wei asked. Chin smiled. We share something. Not the weapons, not the strategic technology. But something that helps them. Something that shows we're not just interested in dominance. Dr. Tanaka's eyes lit up. The medical advances. Our life extension treatments, genetic disease cures, regenerative medicine. That technology is 50 years ahead of galactic standard, but it's not militarily sensitive. Perfect, Chin agreed. We make the offer during the treaty negotiations. We show them that partnership with humanity brings benefits, not just threats. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Delthora stood in the United Earth Coalition's council chamber on Mars. The city was a marvel. Vast underground structures filled with gardens, waterways, and buildings that seemed to defy physics. Millions of humans lived here, comfortable and prosperous in what was once a dead planet. Your terraforming technology, Delthora said in wonder. How long did it take? 200 years for Mars, Chin replied, walking beside her. Venus will be done in another 50. We're patient, Ambassador. We think in generations, not election cycles. They reached the treaty room where representatives from humanity and the council waited. Chin took her seat across from Elder Morath. Before we begin, Chin said, humanity would like to make an offer. A gesture of goodwill. She activated a holographic display showing complex medical data. These are cures for genetic diseases, treatments that can extend the average lifespan by 40%, and regenerative therapies for injury and aging. We're offering them freely to all council species. The room went silent. Delthora felt tears forming in her crystalline eyes. Freely? No trade requirements? No political conditions? No conditions, Chin confirmed. Because humanity learned something important 500 years ago. We learned that being alone is hard. Being dismissed is painful. Being forgotten is dangerous. We don't want other species to experience that. We want them to thrive. Because a galaxy where everyone prospers is better than one where we stand alone at the top. Elder Moritha's stone face showed something that might have been a smile. Admiral Chen, you continue to surprise us. We came expecting negotiations. You offer gifts. Not gifts, Chen corrected gently. Investments. In a future where humanity doesn't stand alone, but stands among friends. The galaxy forgot about us once. We're making sure that never happens again, by making ourselves indispensable. The treaty was signed that day. Humanity joined the Galactic Council not as subordinates, but as partners. The 50 systems they claimed were recognized as sovereign human territory. In exchange, humanity agreed to share non-military technology and provide defensive support to Council species under threat. But as the delegates celebrated, few noticed the private conversation between Chin and Morath. "You're planning something," the Kelrath elder said quietly. "Something bigger than territorial claims." Chin's smile was enigmatic. "The galaxy has been stagnant for 10,000 years, elder. No major advances. No bold exploration. No real progress. Humanity is going to change that. And everyone who wants to be part of that future is welcome. And those who don't? Will watch from the sidelines as history passes them by." Morath rumbled with what might have been laughter. "The Council was right to fear you, Admiral. Just not for the reasons they thought." 5 years after the treaty, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Human medical technology had increased the average lifespan across Council species by 30%. Diseases that had plagued entire civilizations for millennia were now curable. The Kelrath, who rarely lived past 300 years, were now regularly reaching 500. The Threxians, whose rapid metabolism had always limited their lifespan to mere decades, were experiencing generational shifts for the first time. But medicine was just the beginning. In the Vothene home system, Admiral Zelther stood before a structure that shouldn't exist. It was a human-designed fusion reactor that produced energy at levels previously thought impossible. Clean, safe, and efficient enough to power an entire planet with a single installation. "How?" he asked the human engineer, a young woman named Kenji Martinez. "We don't just solve problems," Martinez explained. "We solve them efficiently. Your old reactors worked, but they were built on 10,000-year-old principles. We started fresh, with 500 years of accumulated knowledge and no preconceptions. The result is something better. You're making us dependent on human technology," Zelther said, though there was no accusation in his voice anymore. Just observation. "No," Martinez corrected. "We're teaching you how to build them. All our schematics are open source. We want you to be independent, just more advanced." A rising tide lifts all ships, Admiral. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human agricultural technology was feeding worlds that had known hunger for centuries. Human construction techniques were building cities on planets previously thought uninhabitable. Human educational methods were being adopted by species eager to accelerate their own advancement. And everywhere humans went, they brought not just technology but philosophy. On Earth, Admiral Chin, now promoted to Grand Admiral and humanity's primary council representative, stood in her garden overlooking New Geneva. Ambassador Delthra had become a regular visitor, and today she brought news. "The Outer Rim Coalition has formally requested human protection," Delthra said. 23 species, mostly smaller ones who never had significant military power. They want to join your sphere of influence." "And the Council's response?" Chin asked. "Mixed. The major powers are concerned about human expansion. But they can't deny that every species under human protection has prospered. Your economic and technological agreements have raised their standard of living by orders of magnitude." Chin smiled, plucking a tomato from a vine. "That's the point, Ambassador. We don't expand through conquest. We expand through success. Why would anyone oppose us when opposing us means staying behind?" "Some call it cultural imperialism," Delthra noted. "And they're welcome to their opinion," Chin replied. "But we're not forcing anyone. We offer partnership. Those who accept thrive. Those who don't, well, they're free to maintain their independence. We don't judge." "But you do outcompete," Delthra said shrewdly. "Of course. That's not imperialism, Ambassador. That's evolution. The galaxy was stagnant because no one had to compete. Everyone had their territory, their resources, their established order. We disrupted that. We introduced competition, innovation, and progress. Is it our fault if we're better at it?" Delthra's crystalline laughter rang out. "You know, when we first encountered humanity, we thought you were primitives. Violent, short-lived, unsophisticated. We were so wrong." "You weren't entirely wrong," Chin admitted. "We were violent. We fought terrible wars on Earth. Billions died in conflicts over resources, ideology, and pride. But we learned from those mistakes. We learned that cooperation beats competition. That long-term thinking beats short-term gains. That sharing knowledge creates more value than hoarding it. And that's what you're teaching the galaxy," Delthra said. "We're not teaching," Chin corrected. "We're demonstrating. And those who want to learn are welcome." A comm signal interrupted them. Dr. Tanaka's face appeared, excited. "Admiral, the Deep Space Expedition has returned. You need to see what they found." In the Coalition's Central Command, Chin and Delthora joined the rest of High Command. On the main screen, Captain Rodriguez of the exploration vessel Pathfinder was grinning. "Admiral, we've mapped the entire galactic arm beyond Council space. There are over 400 habitable worlds out there. Unclaimed. Uninhabited. Just waiting for colonization." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. 400 worlds. Enough space for every species in the Council to expand, to grow, to thrive without competing for resources. "There's more," Rodriguez continued. "We've also detected signs of ancient structures. Really ancient. Predating any current galactic civilization by millions of years. Whatever species built them was far more advanced than anything we've encountered." Chin felt a chill run down her spine. Remnants of a precursor civilization? Possibly. Or something else. The structures are still partially functional. If we could study them, reverse engineer them, we could take another leap forward, Dr. Tanaka breathed. Chin turned to Delthora. "Ambassador, I think it's time we proposed a joint galactic expedition. Human ships, Council science teams, shared resources. Whatever we find out there, we discover together." Delthora's eyes gleamed. "The Council will approve. This is the kind of mission that unites species, Admiral. Exploration, discovery, advancement, these are things everyone can support." "Then let's give them something to unite around," Chin said. "Humanity's first gift to the galaxy was technology. Our second was prosperity. Let's make our third gift the future itself." 6 months later, the largest expedition fleet in galactic history departed from Council space. 1,500 ships from 90 different species, led by human vessels but crewed by a mixture of every major civilization. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, and explorers, all working toward a common goal. As the fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, Chin stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vanguard of Earth, and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 500 years ago, humanity had been dismissed as primitives. They'd been forgotten, ignored, and underestimated. But they hadn't been defeated. They'd used that isolation to grow, to advance, to become something unprecedented. Now they weren't just part of the galactic community. They were leading it. "Admiral," Commander Lu Wei said from his station, "we're receiving messages from across the fleet. Every species commander is reporting ready status. They're awaiting your orders." Chin looked out at the stars, at the vast unknown waiting beyond, and smiled. "Signal all ships. Humanity remembers being alone. We remember being forgotten. We remember being underestimated. But most of all, we remember what it felt like to look up at the stars and dream of what was out there." She stood tall, her voice carrying across every comm channel in the fleet. "This is Grand Admiral Sarah Chin of the United Earth Coalition and the Galactic Council Exploration Fleet. 500 years ago, humanity reached for the stars and was told we weren't ready. Today we reach for the stars again, but this time we're not alone. We carry with us the hopes, dreams, and ambitions of 300 species. Together we will discover what lies beyond. Together we will write the next chapter of galactic history. Together we will prove that the greatest accomplishments come not from standing alone at the summit, but from lifting everyone up to stand with us." She paused, feeling the weight of the moment. The galaxy forgot about humanity once. Let's make sure that never happens again, by making ourselves unforgettable. All ships, proceed to jump coordinates. It's time to see what the universe has been hiding from us. As the fleet disappeared into the unknown, back on Earth in the Coalition archives, a junior archivist updated humanity's file in the galactic database. Status, isolated change to status, apex. Threat level, minimal change to threat level, strategic deterrent. Technological level, primitive, change to technological level, unprecedented. Council standing, not applicable, change to Council standing, Coalition leader. Notes: species initially dismissed as irrelevant has become the driving force behind galactic advancement. Humanity's combination of technological superiority, diplomatic acumen, and genuine cooperation has fundamentally altered the galactic power structure. Current trajectory suggests humanity will shape the next era of galactic civilization. Recommendation: never underestimate humanity again. The archivist saved the file, unaware that she was recording the moment when the galaxy's future changed forever. Humanity had been forgotten once. But now they would be remembered for all time, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as the species that reminded the galaxy what was possible when you refused to accept limitations. The stars had belonged to ancient civilizations for 10,000 years. But the future? The future belonged to those brave enough to seize it. and humanity had just claimed their share.